All right, Arkansas earlier this year they kind of raised some eyebrows when they hammered Texas, and then they were able to handle A&M. And they are vaulting up the college football polls, and now they have one of the ultimate tests to Georgia, number 2 ranked Georgia. This weekend, Wally Hall, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, joined us again. He joined us the week of the Texas game. And I remember that, Wally, you were talking about how you felt pretty good about the matchup, and we had some on the chat room going, man, he's a little bit too much of a homer. And that's fine. People can say what they want, but you've been right. How much fun is it right now in Fayetteville, Arkansas?
Well, the whole state is just upside down with enthusiasm. I mean, it's like, I got to laugh that somebody called me a homer. They obviously don't read. That's probably the first time in a 48-year career I've been called a homer. Anyway, I'm not picking Arkansas over Georgia. Just get that straight. But you guys know what winning football does for a community, and we're a little bit different than ever. We don't have a pro team, and this is the biggest school in the state. So it's, they call it the state university, but there are other colleges. Arkansas State has their followers, but most of the state follows the Razorbacks. They probably took, I'm going to say they had, out of the 56,000, they probably had 32,000 of the fans last Saturday in AT&T Stadium. And people are just, it was just ironic, I guess, that Hunter Yurchek, the athletic director, spoke to the Little Rock Touchdown Club on Monday. It was his third time to speak, and it was his first time to come speak after a win. And as soon as he stepped in the room, there was a hog call throughout the whole hotel. So I think people are really happy. I mean, do they have unrealistic expectations? Of course they do. They're football fans.
Wally, when Sam Pittman got hired at Arkansas, I think there was a lot of national, like, who's Sam Pittman and why would they hire him? But he's so far been a natural fit, and maybe the less splashy of a hire was better for Arkansas, wasn't it?
Yeah. You look back, and it wasn't a real attractive job. They had lost, I believe, before he was hired, 19 conference games in a row. The program had really bottomed out. It was going nowhere, and there was no pride, and there was no enthusiasm, there was no discipline. It was just a mess. And so a lot of coaches just weren't interested. And when Sam finally got an interview with him, he obviously wasn't the first choice, but when he finally got an interview, he never mentioned salary. He just mentioned opportunity. And when he was an assistant at Arkansas for 2 years under Bielema, he and his wife fell in love with the state, and they bought their retirement home, and they never sold it. They kept it. They intended to retire in Hot Springs, Arkansas. So this was a great opportunity for him. It was outside the box. He'd never been a coordinator. He was a well-respected offensive line coach, a great recruiter, and he came in, and the first thing he did was instill some discipline and pride in the kids. And 13 of the seniors last year stayed for another year, and a couple of them would have been drafted, but they wanted to help him get up another rung of the ladder. And so he's what you see on TV, interviews. He's just down to earth. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but he kind of reminds me of the old Darrell Royal. Darrell, after a game, he would have all the media over to a hotel room, and they would discuss the game. And he'd stay about 30 minutes, and then he had to go take care of, boosters and stuff. But that's kind of the way Sam is. He's just, I was watching with binoculars after the game, and Jerry Jones, who owns the richest franchise of any sport in the world, of course, embraced him, and Sam gave him an embrace, said a couple of words, and turned around and left. I've never seen anybody leave Jerry Jones. I've always seen Jerry Jones leave people. And Sam left because he wanted to go to his locker room and be with his players. And he's just really unique like that. And in all my years, I've never seen a turnaround like this. Maybe in high school or something, but not on this level, not Power 5. This has been amazing to watch. And they went into the A&M game believing they could win, and they believed they could run the ball on A&M. And he's got a heck of a staff that really works hard, and they exploited a few things. A&M made halftime adjustments and held them to about 130 yards in the second half, but they had over 400 in the first half. I mean, over 300 in the first half, and led 17-3. I don't think anybody saw that coming.
Wally, I know KJ Jefferson banged up his knee, and Traylon Burks injured as well. Any word on those guys, or just kind of how they're feeling and availability entering this weekend?
Well, Traylon was in full pads yesterday. Jefferson was not, and they think he'll be ready by Saturday, but they're not letting him have any contact this week. He was in shoulder pads and shorts and wearing a green jersey, which doesn't mean go; it means stop. So, he set out 3 series in the second half, and the young man that came in, he was just nervous as he could be. You could see it, and outrunning kids in high school is one thing. Outrunning people at the secondaries at Texas A&M, that's a completely different thing. Those guys have track speed like he does. So, but he put together a 40-something yard drive after the interception for the safety field goal that made it 20-10.
Wally, we know Kendall Browse, the coaching tree, of course, with Art and where he's been, what offense he wants to run. We know what, obviously, Jeff Levy's doing at Ole Miss with what they're doing. Yeah, this is kind of a maturity thing with Kendall using what they have, right, at Arkansas with what works best for them, and it's not quite your hair on fire type of stuff?
It is not. It is not. And the first few games, if they rushed up to the line of scrimmage, they just simply ran the ball, and other teams figured that out. And so Browse, he started mixing it up, and he's got 5 running backs, and he's got 4 he plays every game, and all of them are capable of going to the house with it on any down. So they're running the football, and Jefferson's a threat to run the football, and that's opened up the deep ball. And I will say this, I think Jefferson's more accurate deep than he is on short passes.
What a win. I mean, it was an amazing win. We're talking to Wally Hall, the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette on Sikkim 365 Radio.
So, Wally, go ahead.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think they're the number 8 team in the country, but 3 weeks ago they were getting no points, 0.
Mm-hmm.
Not even mentioned. Now they come in at 20, 16, and now 8. That lights up a state. That lights up a program. They feel good. I just found this out yesterday. The Yurchek also hired Eric Musselman to be basketball coach out of Nevada, and took him to the Elite 8 in his second year. They're 500 tickets away from being sold out this coming basketball season. This is a program that had averaged about 8,000 seats sold, season tickets, for the last 10 or 12 years. And they're 500 away from being sold out. So Yurchek's made a couple of good hires, and it just, he makes an old sports writer look forward to going to the games.
Yeah, I can imagine. Craig, anything else for Wally?
Yeah, I mean, Wally, obviously, Arkansas has been able to sort of impose their will up front on teams, and hard to imagine them doing that against Georgia. It should be quite a battle in the trenches, but what does Arkansas need to maintain? What do they need to improve to have a chance of making this, even more of a remarkable season come Saturday?
Well, they've got to be able to run the ball. Jefferson's not a pure passer. He's getting better. He's improving. But like I said, he's better on the deep ball. They throw a few screens that help. They've got to be able to run the ball. They have to. And Jefferson's key on that because he can get 30 yards on you, and he's got that deceptive speed. It looks like he's not running very fast, and all of a sudden you realize that linebacker's not catching him. and it'll take some safety coming up with an angle to get him. So they've got to run the ball, and on defense, they've got to continue to protect on the deep pass. They run a lot of three-man defensive front, which doesn't put pressure on the quarterback to help out. With they'll run a nickel back and they'll drop linebackers into coverage, but their defense is the key to where they are right now. In the first quarter of 4 games, they've given up no points. In the fourth quarter of 4 games, they've given up 14, and all of that was to Texas when the game had already been decided, and it was in the fourth quarter. So defense is key. They have senior leadership at linebackers. Their linebackers are usually 1, 2, 3 in tackles, and they've got to be able to shut down Georgia. They've got, especially on third down, they got to get them off the field, and it's the only chance they got. I'm expecting a low-scoring game, which would give any team a chance in the fourth quarter, but I do think Georgia's very, very good.
Wally, thank you as always. Appreciate you the second time in about a month, right before Texas, right before Georgia, right after the win against A&M. Wally Hall, Hall of Famer, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, with us on 365 Sports and Sikkim 365 Radio. When we come back, Jonas Pope the fourth.